Orcs and elves and knights. Wait, don't leave! This isn't another video complaining about Rings of Power. We're going to talk about one of our favorite games to play together, Warcraft III. Warcraft III is the third game in the RTS series Warcraft, obviously, and it's also the forerunner to World of Warcraft. Its custom games have spawned the popular Dota-style games, including League of Legends and Dota 2. I can remember the first time I played Warcraft 3 by myself, as a lonely nerd, but then Sev came along.
I just came along out of nowhere. Just like was walking down the street. I was down a path. I was hunting,
Yeah.
and I just came across your house. That's how
Yeah.
it really happened.
Yeah, and then you lived in my basement for a while.
And then I lived in your basement as a homeless man. Yeah, I think
Some of
I mean,
that was true. Sorry, go ahead.
some of that was true. But I think some of the things that I would say is that, including the homelessness type of thing, I also was living off your computers and stuff like that because that's how we land at your house.
Yeah, we had like a family computer, and then also my dad had a computer, and we were able to hook those up and actually play the game. I think until you got a laptop for Christmas in like 2004 or something like that. And then we were actually able to just stay in the same room and play the game rather than across the hall from each other.
So yeah, basically we would try to do it on the internet, but it was just kind of easier to do it LAN because we'd have tons of like, what was it called? NAT.
Our
Restricted
NAT wasn't open or NAT was restricted. We were always having
yeah.
problems with that for some reason.
Yep, and basically we'd shut down all firewalls and everything, and we would shut down all firewalls and stuff. It was just ridiculous.
I think it probably had more to do with the fact that we were both on dial-up back then, because that was back in the days of dial-up being a thing. I mean, it still is a thing, but just for less people overall.
But yeah, I think like it was a what do you call it? A very interesting experience of messing around with stuff. I think was it made it really annoying to just have a good time when you just wanted to play a game. Luckily, I would just always go to your house most of the time to do video games.
Yeah. I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that with dial-up internet, you didn't really have you had a modem, but you didn't have like a router and stuff where you could set your own settings as easily as you can these days. I don't know if that was really the issue or not, but it seems like connecting and stuff is way easier nowadays than, it ever was. But
Oh yeah, we don't really have issues anymore.
yeah. But yeah, I mean, Warcraft 3 was, I mean, still is. We still throw it in rotation now and then when we feel like playing, but that's probably one of the first games we played together on PC. I don't know if it's the very first, but definitely one of the first that we played, together.
Did we play Age of Empires the first one together? Because that would have been before. That could have possibly been before.
It could have been. It's hard to
Age
say.
of Empire.
Age of Empires 1 and 2 had already been out by that point, I believe. So it's possible we had played those. I know we didn't play them as much as we've played Warcraft 3, but yeah.
So yeah, I think that Warcraft 3 is a. I did play Age of Empires. Probably my first RTS, by the way. I'm pretty sure.
I remember playing it at school. So
yeah, when Age of Empires being my first RTS, I think that's really like got me into playing RTS games. And so the next RTS game I think I played would have been Warcraft 3, and that was a lot of fun. I think like it was so different from Age of Empires. I think it was such a amazing game with hero units, orcs and like night elves and humans and undead. It was just I don't know. It was a pretty cool experience, I gotta say. So
yeah, I actually played it so much that my mom got mad at me for my grades and yelled at me and said that I wasn't allowed to play the video game anymore until my grades got better. And that entire week, like literally every night that week, she and my dad were out of the house. So I played the game every night that week anyway, and I still got my grades back up. So it had nothing to do with the video game. I had just gotten a bad grade on a quiz or something, and it brought down my average. So, but
The,
yeah,
the,
she
the,
flipped out about that. So
well, the question is, did she know you were playing that entire week?
no, she didn't.
So she thinks in her mind to this day, the reason that you started getting good grades is you stopped playing around with video games.
Yep. Yep, basically, she thinks that video games. Don't get me wrong. If you play too many video games and you don't do your schoolwork, you're probably going to get bad grades. But to be honest, that wasn't what was going on. It just happened to be like I didn't study for a quiz or something, and so my report card for that week said that like you have an F in this class, when really that's just my average, and the average was just one quiz or whatever instead of which is only like 2% of your overall grade.
Yeah. I forgot that.
Yeah, I know you experienced some of that too because we went to the same school for a while.
Yeah, they were doing weekly report cards, weren't they, at that time?
Yep,
yeah, that was dumb.
Yep.
And I think, to be honest with you, I think my parents may have been the one to suggest that.
Oh, really? Well,
yeah.
You can tell them I said thank you sometime.
Right? Because my parents wanted to be even more helicopter parents.
Oh, yeah. How did that turn out for them?
I think I turned out fantastic. I have,
Yeah, I know. You're the greatest. It's cool.
I'm great.
But yeah, going back to Warcraft 3 specifically, you mentioned like all the different types. Like there's 4 different factions. There's the Night Elves, Undead, Human, and Orcs. I really enjoyed the fantasy setting. I think that's what really got me into it, as well as the hero system that you also mentioned. And the hero system, it was neat because you could have up to 3. But typically you would start with 1, or your first one that you built would be your highest level one. And it actually leveled up during your session or your game.
Mm-hmm.
And you were able to fight like camps of, they called them creep camps. They were basically just camps of maybe gnolls or goblins or trolls or something, and you were able to go around the map and kill these things to level up your hero even before you actually engaged with the enemy, and get items that way as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think like it was a pretty cool experience. I gotta say, I think Blizzard did a fantastic job with it.
Yeah, I would tend to agree.
Yeah, I think and of course, I think when we were playing it, I think if I remember right, Frozen Throne was already out, and Frozen Throne was, I think, amazing. Obviously, the campaigns were pretty awesome for
Definitely.
Warcraft. I think that the one thing I would say is that you and I, obviously, we played a lot of like against the computer stuff, right?
Yeah. Typically,
So-
that's what we would tend to do, especially since we were, playing through LAN, so we weren't like on our own accounts, like at our own homes.
Yep.
So a lot of times we would just play against the computer and, put ourselves against insane AI. And I think typically what we would tend to do is just turtle up, like do like a, defensive wall of towers or whatever to make them fight to come get at us. Sometimes that would work, and sometimes we'd get our butt kicked by the computer, but we still had fun.
Yeah. We played that quite a bit. I think and then we did some custom games when we did internet stuff a little bit, but
eventually.
I think you did that more than I did though.
Probably early on, yeah. Just in general, I was able to do that more than you. But I know, like, when we were able to play over the internet, I think it was probably once you had DSL or something, rather than us both having dial-up, like that made it a little bit easier, for whatever reason. But Yeah, I remember playing the custom games, stuff like it was like a hide and seek type game, like Farmers versus Hunters, and there was also a survival game like I think it's called Ice Troll Tribes, and then of course there was things like Dota, which we absolutely sucked at, just as I imagine we would today if we jumped into Dota. But
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't think at least I definitely wasn't that good at it. I
no,
think
neither was
like,
I.
but it was fun. It was fun stuff. I think.
Um, yeah, so I think. We probably got our interest in World of Warcraft as well because of this game and the amount of time we spent playing it, which that's kind of another story altogether. But we um, once we got into college, we both kind of jumped into World of Warcraft and played that quite a lot.
Yeah.
Back in probably what around 2006 or so. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Before the Burning Crusade came
Yeah,
out,
it
right?
was just a
Yeah.
few months before Burning Crusade because it's yeah. I came back from a semester in Florida, and we started playing World of Warcraft like the month I came back, and that was a lot of fun. But again, that's sort of a different story. But the reason why we were so into World of Warcraft, I think a lot of it came from us having played Warcraft 3 so much and knowing so much of the story as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. I think it was kind of cool because yeah, I mean, in a way, the hero units are like characters from the game.
Hmm.
From the you know what I mean? They have inventory, you have
Hmm.
abilities, you have certain stat. I mean, it's like D&D, but like but essentially it translated pretty well, I think.
Yeah.
And I think without getting into the World of Warcraft aspect of it too much, I think that like it was really cool to see transition from that, especially like with the campaign. You had characters from there that then showed up inside the video game MMO.
Yeah. Yep. Both the characters and the classes. A lot of the classes basically came from Warcraft 3 hero classes, like paladin and mage and druid, although some people would say archmage and archdruid, but it's mage and druid, so whatever. We'll not split hairs. um, yeah, it's pretty cool. It was able to roll out of Warcraft 3 into World of Warcraft like that, and you would pretty much instantly know what's what. I mean, for the most part, not everything, obviously, but just in a general aspect of kind of the way things looked and the art style and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I really liked the art style of Warcraft 3. I think it was a lot
Hmm.
of fun.
Hmm.
I think I'd have to say faction wise though, I really enjoyed playing like the humans with all
Hmm.
the you got the towers and stuff like that. And I would say also playing the night elves. So when I
Hmm.
did play World of Warcraft, that's one of the things I wanted to create is a night elf because I thought the night elves were pretty cool when I played
Hmm.
them in the RTS. So yeah, I liked having the giant trees to control. I don't
Hmm.
know what factions did you like?
I think I liked human the best probably. Uh, my favorite thing, like you said, you wanted to make a night elf. One of the things I wanted to make right off the bat was a paladin, just because of the paladin hero in Warcraft 3. But I also enjoyed the orcs a fair amount. And when I felt like, especially when I was the few times we would play against each other, I liked being the undead because you could roll out an army really fast and I could rush you and kill you right away.
Right? Yes, I remember that. It made
Because
me
I'm
so
a
mad.
jerk.
Well, you're better at hit and run type of gameplay than I am with
Yeah.
RTSs.
But
I
yeah, typically the humans and to an extent the orcs, and I think probably the reason why is because they're both more defensive uh, factions than the other two.
Yeah, I think like when it came to the playstyle too, I was very much of I like to build like goal. What do you call it? I like to basically upgrade everything through
Hmm.
the tech trees and stuff like
Hmm.
that. I want the best of the best before I, really
Yeah,
fight.
I mean, typically when you're playing against the computer, that's kind of the way to go. The problem is when you get into the PvP aspect of things, that's when you kind of have to balance upgrades versus more units. Like you have to be very careful with that kind of thing, which I know we learned more about, more so I would say in StarCraft 2 than in Warcraft 3, because that's when we actually got into a little bit more of uh, the PvP aspect of like RTSs, like versus actual people as opposed to like the computer or whatever. So
Mm-hmm.
that's
Yeah.
another story as well.
Yeah. um. I think that did we ever play against people that like only maybe a couple times, or
Yeah,
did
I
we
think a
at all?
few times. It wasn't often that we did. Like typically, if we did anything, it was against either the AI or against each other. But yeah, I mean, a few times we did. I think.
What would you say kind of makes it like? Mm, what would you say really makes the game great as a co-op?
I mean, I guess it depends on your definition of co-op. Um,
Mhm.
to me, just in general, like any sort of RTS, whether you're playing against the computer or against other players as a team, um, you can communicate and use different tactics. Especially like I'm going to be building. That was one of the big things in Warcraft 3 is like somebody's got to build anti-air because a lot of the sort of end game, like the bottom of the or top of the tech tree, depending on how you look at it, units were going to be like flying units, like the Frostworm or the Wyvern or that kind of thing. And a lot of times people would build as many of those as they could. So you had to have something that could kill air units. And to protect those air units, you had to have you know. Uh, Decent ground units to protect them. So typically it was better that like one person build one type of thing, one person build another. So you had to kind of communicate and work together, just like with any RTS really. But again, like yeah, I mean that's kind of what you would have to do. Otherwise, you're not going to be effective, whether it's against the computer or people.
Yeah, yeah. Um, is there like do you want to talk about stuff like we don't like then? I guess no.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about this a little bit. Like I think one of the biggest things for me personally were the caster units. A lot of times, even though they were some of the most powerful units, like they would be healers or they would be, buff or debuff, enemy units, um, their micromanagement of their skills was a pain. You had to like group them together and kind of know the hotkeys. Otherwise, you weren't really effective with them. Some of them, like the priests, you could have on like auto cast and they would just auto heal or auto buff. But then they
Yeah.
would run out of mana if you weren't careful. So
Yeah, I kind of like the auto cast stuff because I would always forget.
yeah,
I'd be trying to more maneuver my units,
exactly.
then worry about like clicking what button, and then you also
Right.
have your hero units to click their abilities, right, to
Exactly.
keep track on those on cooldown, and then you have these caster units off on the side, and then you also have like inventory items that you can click to like do certain things. I felt like as a average RTS player, that was kind of like a lot for to deal with.
Yeah, yeah. Let me make this clear to anyone listening. We're just playing games for fun. Typically, we like to be a little bit competitive here and there, but we're not going to be, top APM. That's actions per minute. StarCraft 2 players. It's just not going to happen. Like that's just not our style. But we like to have fun and do the best we can. So
Yeah, we have fun here. I
yeah,
think
yeah, we
that
like to have fun here.
yeah, I'd say the casting abilities were really annoying to me.
Yeah,
I don't hate them. I mean, they're good and they're beneficial. I think the
yeah,
game's great.
yeah.
It's just a different, different time too.
Um, the inventory system for the heroes was similar. Like sometimes there would be items that you had to use And those could be, I think those had hotkeys as well, but it was just another thing. Like you would have to worry about, like if you wanted to throw down like this healing totem you had picked up, that would be real helpful if you could do that quickly, and it was never a quick thing. Like you had to make sure you had your hero selected and click the item and then right click on the ground, and if you accidentally left clicked rather than right click, you would drop the item and whatever. So it's kind of a pain
Yeah,
too.
yeah, I think that was kind of annoying. I also feel that like with the heroes, you could level like if the enemy person like leveled up their hero, like they get them to like 9 or 10, and you had like a level 3 or 4, you were just gonna get like demolished
Yeah.
if you were too slow to like level up your hero, and they would like the enemy could just come in and kill your hero. You'd have to have a sizable force, I think, to really counter
To
a
counter it,
high
yeah.
level. Yeah, because he would have all his abilities. They would get an ultimate, so they have like 3 abilities and an ultimate. Essentially, you'd unlock as a hero unit, and so it was just like you would just be demolished by that. I felt, and then obviously, if they're gonna have a hero unit that's that high level, they're also gonna have high level units and everything else, and so there it just was like you're pretty outmatched. I felt. You'd have to really be good, and I'm just not really that good.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree with that as well. Um, I mean, I think the game is still good after all these years. There aren't a lot of RTS games with hero units, especially ones that level up and have an inventory system. And as far as RTS games go, there might be a better choice, but I think the fantasy setting and the hero units and it's just a fun game to play with one or more friends. But like I said, we still throw it in rotation to play sometimes, even these days. It's been a little while since we played, but it hasn't been that long either. Yeah, I
um,
know. I know. If we want to talk about the Warcraft III Reforged that came out a couple years ago, that's something else. But
yeah, I would say that the next better one that I would want to play besides Warcraft 3 would be Warcraft 4, which doesn't exist, by the way, Blizzard. And so I'm just saying, if you want me to be interested in Warcraft lore, maybe throw out a Warcraft 4, because you can it's a different type of story, and you get gamers playing games with a campaign. Like, I just don't see anything wrong with it. You did a great job with that, with the whole Arthas thing, but also made it so people who didn't play Warcraft 3 Frozen Throne knew what was going on when they went and killed Wrath of the Lich King. Wrath of the Lich King, by the way, classic, just came out, and I think that like when it comes to this, I mean, why not do a Warcraft 4? It makes perfect sense, Blizzard.
I mean, I don't disagree. I would love to see a Warcraft 4 for all kinds of reasons. I'm going to tell you something you already know. They're not going to do it, but
No.
I mean, maybe someday. I don't think it's completely off the table, but I just don't think it's not going to be a huge moneymaker for them, and that's the problem. I have my issues with the Warcraft 3 Reforged. Um, Basically center around the fact that Blizzard didn't put the time and money into it that they should have, and that's why the game has issues, or isn't what they promised really.
Yeah.
I think the game is still okay. I don't despise Warcraft 3 Reforged the way some people do. For those that don't know, Warcraft 3 Reforged is basically the game brought up to a better graphical standard, and they were supposed to redo things like cutscenes and that kind of stuff, and they didn't really do that. I know there's also been issues with the AI not being as good, because I know that when we've played the Reforged, there's been a lot of issues with the AI just being really stupid. Like, supposedly hard level AI doing, building up an army of 10 people and doing nothing else the entire game.
Yeah, I would say that that's part of the problems. I think, yeah, I think they need to. I really wish they could have done more. I think they kind of got when they did the Reforge. I think part of it too. They got some people like on Twitter or Reddit or wherever freaked out and be like, no changes type of thing. And I think that's part of the reason they also pulled back, besides probably budget reasons or something, I'm sure. I think that they're just kind of like, I think they should be willing to take a risk a little bit more. I mean, I think Warcraft 4 could be a thing. I doubt it. I also agree, doubt it. I mean, they did recently or are going to add talent trees back in the World of Warcraft. I mean, that's, I don't know. They sometimes can improve. We'll see.
I mean, maybe. I'm not going to say it's impossible.
We're StarCraft 3, by the way.
I mean, honestly, any RTS, like, that's how you got your start for the most part. I mean, they had some earlier games, but, like, their most popular games to start were RTS games. And then World of Warcraft sort of launched them to new levels. But yeah, I think the main issue is that RTS games just don't make the money that these other types of games do, and they can't monetize them as efficiently. That's what it is. It boils right down to money, which is typically my issue with Blizzard in general. They put out a lot of good IPs and a lot of good games, and then they sort of farmed them out, as best they could, and got as squeezed as much money. That's why World of Warcraft has gone downhill, and you can see that with the quality of Warcraft 3 Reforged as well as with other things they've done. They really need to put the time and effort and money into making good quality games if they want to pull people back into not just World of Warcraft, but other things as well. There's always going to be people that are going to play it, just like any Blizzard game. But yeah, I think that's the main issue with Warcraft 3 Reforged, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think, like, the other thing is that MMOs don't make much money. If you really want to make money, you do a mobile game, right? And I think that it's kind of, from Blizzard's standpoint, why would we do something? I mean, look at Diablo. It's a mobile game now, right? So, Diablo Immortal. And I think, like, the other thing is that when it comes to an RTS, it's like, yeah, it's probably not going to be as a big a moneymaker. And so it's pretty low on the priority list, probably. So
yeah, I don't disagree. However, I think our definition of an MMO not making much money is very different than their definition, because I'm pretty sure World of Warcraft, even before they put in cash shop stuff, made millions and millions and millions of dollars. So to say that it doesn't make much money, it's a little bit BS. But to them, well, Candy Crush makes, this much more, so maybe we should put our efforts into that. But that's a whole other, again, that's another story.
yeah, you're talking like Candy Crush makes a heck of a lot more. Yeah. So they're making billions, I think, I want to say. Or
which is
not,
sad.
Maybe their entire lifetime billions, something like that. I know
maybe
it's they make a lot per year. So
yeah.
Well, enough of our complaining. If you made it this far, thanks for listening. You have anything else you want to add, Dragaur?
No, I mean, that's mostly our history with this game, and overall, I would say we enjoy it, and we'll probably continue to play it now and then. So.
All right. Yep. So if you liked our video, hit the like button like an angry orc cutting down a human, or
plant that subscribe tree like a hippie night elf.
There you go.